Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video we have to talk about Carvana because, well, there's just some really shady stuff the deeper I dig into this whole situation with the company. I mean, I dove headfirst into the rabbit hole this weekend, and let's just say that, well, I've got some stuff to tell you guys. But before we get into this video, as always, if you can save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. And if you can see more videos just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post this content every single day. Let's get into it. Now, before we go over my whole tinfoil hat theory on Carvana, let's first go over the facts. So Carvana was started by a number of people, but the two most important people you need to know about are Ernie Garcia Sr. and Jr. Now, Jr. is the CEO of Carvana. Now, Senior technically isn't part of Carvana, but he happens to own a ton of Carvana stock, and he also happens to be the father of Ernie Garcia Jr. And so it can be pretty safe to assume that, you know, they talk to each other about the company, especially when, well, again, the father happens to hold a bunch of stock in the company. And because of this relationship with the father holding a bunch of stock and then the son being the CEO, they have pretty much full control of the company. Like, their voting power is something like over 80% within Carvana, which means if they want something to happen with the company in terms of a direction it should go, it's going to happen. Now, a father-son duo basically running a company together wouldn't be an issue if the company was doing everything legally and if the company was profitable. And we all know that Carvana never does anything that would be against any sort of state laws, or, you know, they're definitely the most profitable company on the planet. Okay, all sarcasm aside, we obviously all know that Carvana has the whole titling issue where they basically sell cars that don't have titles, and it's a big enough number that states are getting rid of Carvana's dealer's license, and Carvana basically has on their website begging people that live in that state to help them get their dealer's license back because they aren't abiding by the laws within that state. And then Carvana doesn't make money. They've only had one profitable quarter, and, you know, since then they've lost hundreds of millions of dollars every single quarter, which equates to well over $1 billion in losses per year. And this has led Carvana's stock price to decline by like 96% year to date. Right now, Carvana is only worth about $900 million. They have over $9 billion in debt. And the creditors that have most of Carvana's debt are literally basically telling Carvana to probably file for bankruptcy because their whole business model and company doesn't make sense. And if that wasn't enough, Ernie Garcia Sr. happened to sell a bunch of Carvana stock, you know, right around the peak. Somehow he just kind of knew, and somehow he just, you know, for some reason, it's not like his son's a CEO or anything, he just decided to sell the stock, and he made billions of dollars. And so you have this situation where, again, you have the son running this company, and he and with his father have basically total voting power of this company, so they can decide whatever direction this company goes in, and they know exactly where this company is going to go from where it's at today in terms of where it'll be in a few months. And, you know, the father decides to sell stocks at a certain time that leads him rather to make billions of dollars, and the son definitely wasn't benefiting from any of that. Like that would never be a thing. This is where I want to quickly talk about Section 363 before we get into the next section of the video. So I would have to make an entire video and some to fully explain this, but all you need to know for today's video's sake is if Section 363 is properly executed on, this would allow a business or a person to purchase a business that has gone through bankruptcy, that has massive amounts of debt, and they themselves would not have to take on any of that debt. So they get to purchase this business that has debt, and they don't have to take on that debt. So if you don't know, if you purchase a business that is going through a bankruptcy or, you know, has gone bankrupt, then there are several things that typically happen. So the first thing that could typically happen with this purchase is basically you buy the business, but you also buy the debt, so you have to pay off that debt over time. Or it might be a situation where you buy the business, but then the person you're buying the business from has to take the profits from that sale, and they themselves have to pay off the debt. And there are some other outcomes, but the big takeaway from this section of the video is, again, if you navigate things properly, if you pay the right people, then you can buy a business that has tons of debt and you don't have to pay off that debt yourself. And well, this is where we get into the reality of the Carvana situation. So Here's the deal. This Ernie Garcia Sr. guy is not necessarily known for being the most upstanding citizen. He got in big trouble in the 1990s for doing a bunch of shady business stuff, legal trouble, that is. And, I understand that people change, but people also don't change. And so here's my whole theory. So you have this situation where this father basically tried to do this business scheme and it completely failed, and he probably learned a lot from that. And so he, over the course of, a couple of decades, basically built out a new scheme, and that scheme is Carvana. And what better way to execute this scheme than to have your son as a part of it? And so you have the situation where, again, the son is the CEO of the company, so he's the one that is directing the company in terms of where it's going to go, and he knows exactly what's happening with the company because he's the freaking CEO. And then you have the father that's not technically part of the company, but he owns a massive amount of stock in the company. And so it would be really convenient if that father happened to know when to sell the stock at the top of the price for Carvana, because, it's not like he could, just maybe have dinner with his son one night and then his son goes, oh, hey, by the way, that Carvana stock, you should probably, maybe, I don't know, get rid of a little, maybe, get some profits, all that kind of stuff. And again, we all know that Ernie Garcia Sr. made a ton of money off of the Carvana deal. I mean, literally billions of dollars. It was a whole pump and dump situation. That's what everyone is calling it. And so that's, again, the first part of the quote-unquote scheme is they basically did everything they could to make Carvana worth as much as possible. So then the dad could sell the stock at the highest possible price and make the most amount of money. But that's not actually where things end. Because if you notice, as everything was going up, what the son was saying in terms of like press releases and everything is Carvana's the future. Everything's great. This is going to be the best company ever. And it's not profitable right now, but it'll eventually be profitable. And then they did have their profitable quarter. And they're like, look, we made money. Like it's the best thing ever. But now what the son is saying is, oh, yeah, we're struggling and we had to lay people off. We might figure it out. And then, oh, things are actually probably going to get even worse. It literally is like a complete 180. Like he went from trying to make the company look like it should be worth the most amount of money possible to basically constantly devaluing the company. And well, I think that that's for a reason, because again, the dad has, several $1 billion, and now the company is worth less than $1 billion, and it's continuing to be worth less and less money. And this is where like the second part of the scheme comes in is I think that they are going to try to get Carvana worth the least amount of money possible and then have Carvana file bankruptcy. And then the dad will have a chance to pull out that Section 363, buy the company, not take on any of the debt, the $9 billion plus in debt, and then basically restart the whole thing over again, because Carvana at this point is quote unquote too big to fail. That's what a lot of people have said. A lot of people like the concept, right? Customers and investors as well. And so it will still be Carvana. It'll just be under different ownership, aka the dad that got the money to buy the company from all of the stock that he basically pumped and dumped. That's pretty much going to sum things up for today's video. I want you guys to let me know what you think about my whole theory with this situation. Again, I know that for some of you it might sound crazy, but like it seems pretty obvious to me. Like this is, again, it hasn't happened yet, but I would not be shocked if this is what ends up happening. And then we have like another run up with Carvana, and it's basically just this, again, this money-making scheme that ultimately the company itself will never make any money. But the Garcias, man, they are going to be, I mean, they're already filthy rich at this point, but they're going to be really, really filthy rich after this whole situation, finally, comes to, I guess, completion. But I'll see you guys. Let me know what you think about this. That's all.